Hello dear students, welcome to the third lecture of the organizing. The last lecture we discussed the different types of the organization structure, and in this lecture we are going to discuss the types of the organization structure, a span of management, what you mean by the term is a delegation of authority, and what is authority and what is the responsibility. These are the major contents of this third lecture. So what do you mean by the organization structure? What is a delegation, what is the authority, and what is the responsibility? The last class we discussed the organization model. There are basically 5 categories of the organization model. There is hierarchical organization, there is a flat organization, and the flat organization, flat hierarchies, and the holocratic organization. These are the 5 important categories of the organization model. We have already discussed the first 2 categories, hierarchical organization and the flat organization. What is hierarchical organization? That means there is a authority responsibility relationship organization. The term is known as a hierarchical organization. And there is a clear-cut authority and responsibility that is strictly following the line of authority. The term is known as a hierarchical organization. And what is a flat organization? The flat organization, that means this category of organization, there is no middle level manager or the few managers are in between the working arrangement. The term is known as a flat organization. And we're discussing the flat hierarchies, flatter, and the holocratic organization. We're starting with the first important one is flat hierarchies. What is the flat hierarchies? The flat hierarchy is like a combination of the 2 important structures, that is flat organization and the hierarchical organization. That's a combination of the 2 important structures, that's a flat and the hierarchical. So that means they're not quite flat or nor hierarchy. That means there is no flat structure, there is no hierarchical structure. And that means we are following the combination of the both structure. That's a combination of the both flat and the hierarchical structure. That means sometimes there is no middle level manager and they're following the strictly line of authority. That is a category of the organization known as the flat hierarchy. Look at the diagram. This diagram shows that the flat hierarchy is example. That means there is a strictly following the authority response relationship. Sometimes there is a possibility for the few level managers in between the work arrangement. This category of the organization is known as the flat hierarchies. That means it's the most adoptable approach in the organization structure. And this approach is more relevant to medium and the large scale organization. This category of the structure is already opted by the medium and the large scale organizations. So example, Google and the LinkedIn and a lot of the companies are following the flat hierarchies. That means the combination of the both the flat and the hierarchy. This category of the organization is known as the flat hierarchy organization model or the flat hierarchy organization. And what are the characteristics of these flat hierarchies? The flat hierarchy, these are the important characteristics of the flat hierarchies. The first one, in between the hierarchy and the flat organization, is always in between the hierarchy and the flat organization. That means there is no purely hierarchy or the flat. That means combination of the hierarchy and the flat organization. That means in between the hierarchy and the flat organization. And second one is both hierarchy and the flat structure. We can see the both category of the structure. That means the hierarchy and the flat structure, and it's always dynamic. That means changes according to situation. The flat hierarchy is always dynamic. That means changes according to the situation. That term is the dynamic, and mainly adopted for the innovation purpose. This structure is basically adopted for the innovation. That means introducing something new in the market, something new product in the market. The Google is using the flat hierarchy because they are introducing a lot of the new products in the market. And the last characteristics is gaining the competitive advantages. To achieve the competitive advantages, that means to take the advantage of the competitive format. These are the important characteristics of the flat hierarchies. And what is a flat hierarchy? Flat hierarchy, that means not purely flat or nor hierarchy. That means they are using the combination of the both structure, that's a flat organization and the hierarchical organization. This category of the organization known as the flat hierarchy. These are the important characteristics of the flat hierarchies. Okay, and after the flat hierarchy, the next important structure is a flatter organization. So, and here there is a third one is a flatter organization. We're discussing the what is a flatter organization. The flatter organization is mainly usable for the small companies or the small organization. That means here we are using this structured organization because of the lack of the manpower. That's one of the important reasons following this category of the organization is the lack of the manpower. So it is most suitable for the small scale organizations. So we can handle the workload without hiring the additional employees because we have this we have the lack of the manpower and we have the insufficient resources, but we have to do some work for the organization. So we can do the work without hiring the additional employees. So we can follow this category of the organization, that is the flat organization. So many small companies are the flat organized structure because of the lack of the manpower. For example, a new management consulting firm will typically employ senior management employees in the marketing and finance, sales before hiring the lower level employees. This executive may be able to handle the workload without hiring the additional employees because they're appointing all small, only few persons in the organization for handling the different functions because of the limitations. So this is one of the important category of the organization. Is mainly suitable for the small scale concern. Therefore, organized structure is relatively flat. So this is an example regarding the flat organization. This is always flat because the flat versus the pyramidal shaped larger companies, because we can see only there is a few number of the workforce within organization. They are appointing the topmost person, then selecting the only few person for the betterment of the organization. So this category of the organization is known as the flatter organization. That is one of the important category of the organization is the flatter organization, and because of the lack of the manpower. Okay, and these are the advantages and the disadvantages of the flatter organization. What are the advantages of flatter organization? And here these are the advantages because we are following the flatter organization. We have a lot of the benefits. What are the important benefits? First one is a greater communication between the employees, because only few workers are working and they have the greater communication between the employees within the organization. And the employees' morals are increasing. That means there is high morals and motivation, and there is a less bureaucracy attitude, and companies are making the quick decisions because we have to follow the clear-cut policy and take the right decisions. An organization can respond more quickly to the new opportunities because only small peoples are the only delegate persons are working, and they are taking the appropriate decision and also identify the new opportunities. And the faster response to the new business, that be quick response and faster response, and better understanding the company's goals and operational issue. There is a better understanding between the company's goal for the betterment, that what are the objectives of the companies can clearly define in the flatter organization. These are the basic advantages regarding the flatter organization. There is a greater communication, the employees' morale can be increased, there is less bureaucracy, the company can make the right decisions, and faster response, and the quick new opportunities, better understanding. Okay, and what are the drawbacks? Suppose you are following the flatter organization, what are the drawbacks? Some drawback is here. Some employees may report more than one boss. There is some situations. Sometime employees can be reported the more than one boss because of the confusions, because of the span of management. That's the limitation of span of management. That's the first drawback. Some employees may report more than one boss. Then there is a fewer opportunity for the promotion because there is only lack of the manpower. There is no need for the promotion because there is a fewer opportunities for the promotion in case of the flatter organization. And employees need to be more self-motivated, independent their work style. There is no motivation from the top level managers. An employee try to be self-motivated for the work performance. That's another important drawback. There is employees are need to more the self-motivated and independent in their work styles, and they have the less time to focusing on the individual decision. They have only few times for the focusing on the individual decisions. And the department role also be unclear. Sometimes the role of the employee is unclear, this type of the flatter organization. These are the drawbacks regarding the flatter organization. The flatter organizations are used because of the lack of the manpower. So only small scale concerns are using the flatter organization. And here, these are the drawbacks regarding the flatter organization. Some employees may report more than one boss, and there's a fewer opportunities for the promotion. The employees need to be self-motivated, and they have the less time to focusing on the individual decision. The department roles can also be unclear or the vague. So these are the basic drawbacks regarding the flatter organization. Okay, and after the final one is holocracy. Holocracy is one of the new structure of the organization. That means circular format of the arrangement. Look at this diagram and you can see the circular format of the hierarchical level. And here the authority is created through the circular hierarchical format. So listen, this approach is based on the hierarchy, circular hierarchy with a strict set of the principles. And there is a hierarchy in the holocracy. Hierarchy means authority responsible relationship. But this authority responsibility relationship is like a circular format with a strict set of the principles and how it should be run into how the meeting should be conducted and tension should be processed, and these are the important elements. And here each circles comprise several people without any job title who may be the several roles. As you can see, this circular, a lot of the persons are working and they have the several jobs. That's not a single job, and these persons have the several jobs. So that is very important. Several people without any job title who have the several roles. They have several. Sometimes the person is acting as a marketing manager, production manager simultaneously. There is several people without any job, but they have the several roles. That is the importance of the holocracy. That means it's mainly for the circular hierarchical format with a strict principle. At the circles above, others are responsible for setting the direction, priority, guidance, and circulars. And holocracy is more common among the smaller and small medium category of the organization. This holocracy is mainly usable for only the smaller organization, otherwise medium-sized organization, because you can opt only the small scale and the medium structure of the organization. So this is one of the important element of the holocracy. The holocracy is a circular format of the organization arrangement. That means a circular hierarchy with a strict set of the principles. And several people are without any job title who have several roles. That is the strength of this holocracy organization. And what are the important characteristics of the holocracy? And these are the two important characteristics of the holocracy. The one is the decision making are distributed throughout the holocracy, self-organizing team rather than vested the management hierarchy. That means the decision making is distributed. That is one of the important characteristics of the holocracy. The decision makings are distributed throughout the holocracy, self-organizing team. And second characteristic, holocracy distribution between role and the people who fill them. That means there is several people and any job title who have the several roles. So that means the distribution between the role and the people who fill them, as the individual can hold the multiple role at given time. Sometimes a person is working as a multiple role. The finance manager acting as a marketing manager. The marketing manager simultaneously act as the finance manager. So that is a lot of the arrangement within the holocracy organization format. So that is a circular hierarchical format. Holocracy is the circular hierarchical format with a strict set of the principles. And here one of the important strengths is that several peoples without any job title who have the many several roles. That is the strength of the holocracy organization, and this is an example. This is a pattern of the holocracy organization. These are the 5 important structures of the holocracy. Once again, the first important structure is regarding hierarchy. That means the strict principle, authority, responsibility, relationship. Flat means there is no middle-level manager. The flat organization means it's mainly for the lack of the manpower. The flat hierarchy is like the combination of flat and hierarchy. And the last one is the holocracy. Holocracy is like the circular format of the arrangement with a strict set of the principles. These are the different forms of the organization model used in the business. These are different types of the organization model. And after that, we are going to one of the important concept, that is span of management. We already familiar with the term is span of management. What is the span of management? The span of management refers to the number of subordinates who can be managed efficiently by a superior. The term is known as the span of management. There is authority responsible relationship is existing in the organization. Sometimes a lot of the subordinate and there is a lot of superior. And the span of management clearly specify that the number of subordinate who can be managed efficiently by the single superior. How many number of subordinate can be effectively managed by the single superior. The term is known as the span of management. And here there is a lot of the subordinate, but a single superior, how much he can handle effectively or efficiently. So this is a diagram. There is a single manager, there are a lot of the subordinate, and how many number of subordinate can be effectively managed by the single superior. The term is known as the span of management. ഒരുപാട് superiors ഉണ്ട്, എത്ര then ഒരുപാട് subordinate ഉണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ ഒരു സിംഗിൾ superior, ഒരു superiorനെ എത്ര subordinate effective ആയിട്ട് മാനേജ് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് സാധിക്കും, അത് സ്പെസിഫൈ ചെയ്യുന്ന ടീമാണ്. ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് the span of management. The span of management has two implications. One is it is influence complexity of the individual manager's job, and second one determine the shape or the configuration of the organization. The two important implications. The one is mainly for the influence the complexity. We can reduce a lot of the complexity with help of the span of management, because number of subordinate can be effectively managed by superior. Normally 7 to 8 number of subordinate can be effectively managed by single superior. So it's influence the complexity and can be reduce the complexity. And second, determine the shape or the configuration of the organization. The span of management is always help to determine the shape or the configuration of the organization. This is the configuration of the organization. Can be shape the configuration of the organization. So that is another important, two important implication of the span of management. One is influence the complexity, another one is determine the shape of the configuration. Okay, and after that, what are the important factors are responsible for the span of management and span of management is also known as span of supervision. And what are the factors are determining for the span of management and span of supervision? These are the 9 important element factors that determine the span of management. The first important, the capacity and the ability of the executive. The span of management purely depends upon the capacity and the ability of an executive. That means superior capacity is very important element. That is the first important factor. That is the capacity and the ability of the executive. And the second one is the competency and training of the subordinate. The competency is one of the important factors regarding the functions of the manager. The competency training of subordinate. The subordinate well trained, we can handle easily by the span of management. Suppose the superiors can handle the lot of the subordinate. The subordinate are competent, they can be easily managed this category of subordinate. The second one is the competency. The nature of the work, it depends upon the nature. That is whether executive works or top level works they are doing. The nature of work is one of the important factors to determine the span of management on supervision. Another time available for supervision. This very important element is the time. The time is wait for the none. The available time is very important, and how much time is required to complete each job. So the time and available time for the supervision is one of the important factors determined by the supervision of the management. And another one is the degree of the centralization and the decentralization. The degree of the centralization or the decentralization. So sometimes the decentralization is very important. This is granting authority to the lower level. So decentralization of authority is one of the important factors determine the supervision of management. And how far a superior is granting authority to the lower level is always influence the span of management. So there is a degree of the decentralization, extent of the delegation. That's a delegation means granting authority to the lower level. That means these are two important factors. Delegating authority. These are two another important factors depends upon the span of management. And there is a effectiveness of the communication system. There is a proper communication system is very important for the span of management. So there is a effectiveness of the communication system is another important factors determine the span of management. And there is a quality of the planning. Planning is a futuristic activity. Span of management is a futuristic activity. So quality of the planning is essential for the success of the organization. So the quality of the planning, that means futuristic plans. The futuristic is very important element. And the degree of the physical dispersion, that is the arrangement of the work. That is a physical dispersion. and the assistance of the expert assistants, another important factor. How far the assistants, expert assistants are supporting the superiors, that's another important factors determining your the span of management or the span of the supervision. Okay, these are the important factors are the contributing your the span of management on the span of the supervision. The first factor is the capacity and the ability of the executive, and competency and the training, nature of the work, the time available for the supervision, the degree of the decentralization, the effectiveness communication system, the quality planning, the degree of the physical dispersion, assistance of the expert. These are the important factors are contributing or responsible for the span of management and the span of the supervision. Okay, and after that, what is another important term is the delegation of authority. The delegation is very important element. You have to delegate some authority. Authority is delegated, but the responsibilities cannot be delegated. And we're discussing about the delegation of authority. The delegation of authority means granting authority to the lower level. That is a granting authority. The term is known as the delegation. The delegation of authority is like an organization process where the manager divide the work among the subordinate. How the manager is dividing the work to subordinate. There is a granting of authority to the lower level. The term is known as the delegation of authority. The authority is delegated, but the responsibilities cannot be delegated. So, but the person is always responsible. Along with the responsibility, he is also share an authority. The granting an authority is the sharing authority. There is a power to take the decision to the subordinate. The term is known as the delegation of authority. What's the delegation of authority? That is like a power to take the decision with the subordinate. The term is known as the delegation of authority. Okay, and if we're discussing what the important characteristics of the delegation of authority. The delegation means is a granting of the authority, granting of the power to the subordinate. And we're discussing what the important characteristics of the delegation of authority. Listen, these are the 6 important characteristics. The first one, the delegation means is like a giving of the power to the subordinate. So quietly giving the power to the subordinates to act independently. This is the first important characteristics of the delegation, is the giving of the power. And second one is delegation does not mean managing giving of his authority, but certainly he has sharing some authority with subordinate. That means does not mean the manager give up the authority. That means it means the sharing of authority. That's second important, that's sharing of authority. And the third one, authority once delegated can be further expanded or withdrawn by the superior depending on situation. The one can be, once it can be delegated, can be further expanded or withdrawn by the superior. Superior can decide, can be expanded or the withdrawn. The decision taken by the superiors. The manager cannot delegate authority which he himself does not possess. Cannot delegate full authority to subordinate. That means can be shared, but cannot be delegated full authority to the subordinate. That is another important element. That is he cannot delegate his full authority to subordinate. It's a very important element. The delegation of authority may be oral, written, and specific or the general. The different format of authority is oral, written, specific, and the general. And another one is the delegation is like an art. That means it's an art with the fundamental rules of the organization. That's another important. It's like an art. These are the basic characteristics of the delegation of authority. One is a giving of authority and sharing of the authority. Once delegated can be further expanded or the withdrawn. The manager cannot delegate the authority which himself possesses the author. And another one is the delegation of authority is oral or written. The delegation is art. These are the important characteristics of the delegation of the authority. Okay. And after that, what are the important types of the delegation and process of the delegation? And basically, these are the different types of the delegation. One is general and specific delegation. The delegation means the granting of the power to the subordinate. The first category, general delegation. The general delegation, when authority is given to perform general managerial functions like the planning, organizing, directing, the term is known as the general delegation. And specific delegation means it's relating the particular function, particular task. The term is known as the specific delegation. So these are the first category. There is a general and there is a specific. What's the general? The general means it's like a managerial function. That means it's mainly for the general managerial function. You are the delegation relating with the managerial functions like the planning, organizing, you are the directing is not as you are the general. A specific means focusing on certain work as an assignment or task, particular function. That is specific delegation. Another formal and the informal delegation. The formal delegation authority is part of the organized structure. Informal delegation does not relate with any positions. Does not arise due to the position, according to circumstances. The formal is well structured. Informal is like it depends upon the circumstances. It's not a well structured. The formal delegation of authority is part of the organization structure. That means relating with the formal part of the organization. The informal is happen the circumstances. The second one is formal and the informal delegation. Then a third one is the lateral delegation. When a person delegates the authority to accomplishing a task, he may need assistance for the number of the person. When authority is delegated informally, it is called lateral delegation. When the authority is delegated informally, it is called the lateral delegation. It's a part of the delegation, but the authority is delegated informally. That is the lateral delegation. And the last one is reserved authority and the delegated authority. That means the authority which keep with him is called reserved. Sometimes it's like an authority is keep this President of India. They have the reserved authority. That's the authority is known as reserved authority. Authority which keep with him is known as a reserved authority. An authority which is assigned to subordinate, that is known as a delegate authority. Sometimes the principal is delegating authority to the teachers. So that is a part of the delegated authority. These are the different types of the delegation. This is general, specific delegation, and the formal, informal delegation, and there is a lateral delegation, reserved, and the delegated authority. Okay, these are the different types of the delegation. And what are the process of the delegation? The delegation has 4 important processes. That is upon the assignment of the duties of subordinate. The first, you assign the duties to the subordinate. You're granting the power, authority to the subordinate. That is the first important step, is assignment of the duty to the subordinate. And after that, transferring authority and responsibility. After the assigning the duties, the next you transfer authority or responsibility to the performing this duty. The first you assigning the duty, which person is responsible to assign the duties. Now the transferring you the authority and responsibility to perform this particular duty. And third one is acceptance assignment. There is a subordinate accepting the assignment. That is the third step, is the acceptance of the assignment. And fourth one is the accountable. This is the responsibility. If there is a responsibility is created, this is part through the accountability. And these are the 4 important steps regarding the delegation. And the first one, assigning the duties to the subordinate. The first, you assign the duty to the subordinate for performing the work. And transfer of the authority and responsibility to perform these duties. And third one, acceptance of the assignment, accepting the assignment. And fourth one is accountability. These are the important processes relating with the delegation. Okay, there's different types, and these are the processes relating with the delegation. Okay, what are the principles? And the delegation has a lot of the principles, and we're discussing 7 important principles of the delegation. The first one is the principle of the functional definition. Definitely, the delegation is focusing on the functions. That means that clearly the authority-response relation. This is focusing on the functional definition. And second is the principle of the result expected. You're granting authority, you're expecting some result from the subordinate. You're granting the authority to the subordinate, you're expecting certain result. That's the principle of the result expected. And third one, principle of the parity authority response. That means authorities granted responsibilities already ensured. Authorities can be delegated, but the responsibilities cannot be delegated. And there is a principle of the unity of command. There is a single superior and the subordinate. Subordinate is responsible. There is the unity of command. And there is a principle of absoluteness of responsibility, because authority is always connected with the responsibility. This responsibilities cannot be delegated, but the person granting authority also ensuring the responsibility. The principle of the absoluteness of the responsibility. The scalar principle, that is chain of command from the top to bottom. There is a gangplank in between the communication channel. That is scalar principle. And seventh one, the principle of exception. That means only exceptional matters are taken by the subordinate. superiors, and the rest of them given to the other superiors. Subordinate. Only exception matter taking care of the superior, and rest of them given to the subordinate. The term is one of the principle of the exception. And these are the 7 important principles relating with the delegations. And the first one, the principle of the functional definition, a principle of the result expected, the principle of parity, authority, responsibility, the principle of the unity of command, the principle of the absolute of the responsibility, the scalar principle, the principle of the exceptions. And these are the 7 important principles. And finally, what are the advantages of the delegation? We are already familiar with the word of the delegation. Suppose you are practicing the delegation, what are the advantages? The first one is minimizing the workload of the manager. Definitely can be minimizing the workload of the manager. Give the enough work to the subordinate. So minimize the workload to the managers. And benefit of specialization. That means the division of works is promoted with help of the delegation. The division of work lead to the specialization. And third, motivation morale. The employee motivation morals are improved with the help of the delegation of authority. And also promoting the training and development for the betterment of the skill, knowledge of the employee. They're promoting the training and developments. And firstly, the growth and the expansion. There is ample opportunity for the growth and the expansion of the employees. The employees can be evolved in a lot of the practices. And it firstly the growth of the employees. And quicker and the faster response and faster decision. With help of the delegation, we can take the quick decision and the fast response. And the last one is the basis for organizing. The delegation is always essential for organizing of an activity. These are the basic advantages regarding the delegation. That's a minimizing the workload of the manager. That's a benefit of specialization, motivation of the morale, training and development. Firstly, the growth and the expansion, the quick and the fast response with the basis for the organizing. These are the important advantages regarding the team, the delegations. Okay, and the one of the important element after the delegation, there's one of the important term is authority. What is an authority? What do you mean by the term is an authority? Authority means like a power. That's a power and right of the person to use, allocate resource efficiently. So authority means is in a business context, authority can be defined. It's like a power or right of a person to use, allocate some resources. And for what purpose? Achieving the organizational objective. The term is known as the authority. So authority means like a power to take the decision. Take a power. It's like a power to take a decision. The term is known as your authority. That means what is the purpose of authority? It's mainly for achieving the organizational objectives. Okay, what are the different types of? We will discuss some different types of authority. There is a charismatic authority. That means charismatic leader. That retreat point we can see the charismatic activity. The charismatic authority point the individual who possesses certain traits, because the peoples believe some traits in the such category of persons. So possessing certain traits to make the leader as like a extraordinary. That's the charisma point of view. It's the charismatic point of retreat point of view. That's one of the important authorities. Some priest are giving the instruction to the followers. That means like a charismatic authority. And second one, traditional authority. The traditional authority means dominant personality. Sometimes the leader, someone who depends upon the established traditional or the traditional leadership. That means it's like a traditional format. Traditional authority indicates the presence of dominant of the personality because of personality. The person getting authority because of the personality. That's the traditional authority. And third one is the legal and rational authority. Legal and rational authority is is like a grounded, clear, defined law. It depends upon the law. Suppose Supreme Court judge getting the authority because of legal point of view. The legal point to get a lot of the right. That's the legal or the rational authority. And technical authority. That means people accepting order from other person because of his knowledge and skill. That is not as a technical authority, because some person hearing some other persons because of his knowledge and skill. That's a technical authority. And another positional authority. The authority of the institution. But suppose the principals getting authority because of certain position. The authority institution based on the position enjoyed by the such person in an organization. This cat authority is getting because of position. That is a positional authority. These are 5 important categories of the authority. That is charismatic, traditional, legal authority, technical authority, and the positional authority. These are the 5 important categories of the authority. Okay, and another important aim is your the responsibility. After authority, another important aim is your the response. What is the responsibility? The responsibility means obligations to the subordinate. Suppose authority is granted, responsibility simultaneously getting. So a responsibility means it's like an obligation of subordinate to carry out some duties or works. Some superiors giving the authority to the subordinates. Subordinate is always responsible to superior. That type of the arrangement is known as your the responsibility. That means assigning duty. That means it's like an obligation. Responsibility is like an obligation. And what are the basic difference? Finally, what are the basic difference between authority and responsibility? So the first important difference, authority refers to the power, responsibility is not the obligation. The one is getting a power, that another one is it's like an obligation. And second, what is it? It's like a legal right to issue order. Your authority is always like a legal right to issue an order. A responsibility is a corollary of the authority. That means it's like an obligation of an activity. Is a corollary of the authority. As a result part, authority is formal positions in an organization, and here there is superior subordinate relationship. Responsibility is created because of the superior subordinate relationship. Authority is created mainly because of formal position. And task of the manager is a delegation. The delegation of authority. That means it's an assumption of the responsibility. That as the responsibility is important, and that the delegation. That means is mainly for the ability to give an order. It's the ability to follow the orders. Responsibility is mainly for the ability to follow order, and here there is ability to give an order. And the flow, it's like a downward. And responsibility is flow, the upward. One is a downward. That authority is always downward. The responsibility is always upward. Objective, to make the decision of implement it. One of the important objectives, to make the decision and implement it. Our responsibility is to execute the assigned and superior. That means to execute the duty assigned by the superiors. That is mainly one of the important objective of the responsibility. And the last one is the duration. It's a continuous long-term process, continuous long-term period. Responsibility as soon as take is accomplished. That means when end, as soon as take is accomplished. So it's like a continuous for the long period. It's like an ends as soon as his task is accomplished. എപ്പോഴാണ് നമ്മൾ കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് അപ്പോൾ റെസ്പോൺസിബിലിറ്റി എൻഡ് ചെയ്യാം. These are the basic differences between authority and your the responsibility. Authority is like a power, and here there is an obligation. It's like a legal right. It's a corollary of authority. It's a formal position, and it's a superior subordinate relationship. It's one is downward, another one is upward, and it's take a decision to make the decision, and here they're executing the duty. And these are the basic differences between the authority and the responsibility. What is authority? Authority means like a power. That's a power to right. It's like the power, the right of the person to use the allocated resources efficiently. The term is known as your authority. Responsibilities means you have the obligation to your subordinate, carry out your the duty assigned to him. These are the important differences between authority and the responsibility. Okay, let me conclude. The first we discuss the organization model. And basically 5 categories of the organization model. One is the hierarchical format of the organization, and another one is the flat organization, flat hierarchies. And this lecture we're discussing the flat hierarchy. Flat hierarchy is like a combination of the flat and the hierarchical structure. And flat means is a flat. Then another one is a flat organization. The flat organization used for the lack of the manpower. That means handle the workload without hiring additional employees. That is a flat organization. And after that, the advantages and the disadvantages. And holocracy is a circular format of the strict set of the principle. The term is known as holocracy of the organization. The several people without any job title, but who have the several roles. That is a benefit of the holocracy. And what is span of management? There's number of subordinates who can be managed efficiently by the superior. The term is known as span of management. And these are factors responsible for span of management. There is a delegation, that means granting of authority. The term is known as the delegation. That means as a manager dividing his work among the subordinates. That is a delegation of authority. These are the characteristics of the delegation. Types of delegation: general, specific, formal, informal, lateral organization, reserved. And the process, that's assigning the duties, transferring the responsibility, acceptance of assignment, that is accountability. That's the responsibility. And these are the process of the delegation. And these are the principle function definition, result expected, parity authority, unity of command, then absolute or responsibility principle and exceptions. These are the important principles of the delegation. What are the advantages? It's minimizing the workload, the benefit of specialization, motivation, morale, training and development, quick and the better decision, the base of organizing. That is these are the important advantages regarding the principles of the advantages of the delegation. And finally, what is authority? Authority means like a power to write to the order. That is the name is known as authority. And these different types of authority: charismatic, traditional, legal, technical, and the positional authority. And finally, what is the term is responsibility? Responsibility means obligation towards a work. The term is known as the responsibility. And these are the basic differences between the authority and the responsibility. And here the authority is always flow the downward, the responsibility is always flow the upward. This is the one of the basic difference between the authority and the responsibility. Okay, anyway, thank you so much, and thank you for watching me.